Clean sleep stack. First off, this clean sleep stack is purely hypothetical and includes experimental elements. Consider it a science fiction scenario, not medical advice. In other words, don't go mixing these together at home without a lab coat and a doctor on speed dial. Today we'll stack 5 ingredients: magnesium glycinate, taurine, niacinamide, sensoril ashwagandha extract, and a tiny dose of melatonin, and explore what each might theoretically do for sleep. Think of it as a bedtime smoothie recipe for the mad scientist, with a dash of dry humor. Magnesium glycinate, 200 milligrams elemental. Magnesium is basically the body's official calm down mineral. It helps relax muscles and the nervous system, which can lead to better sleep. In fact, higher magnesium levels have been linked with longer, better quality sleep. Magnesium glycinate in particular is a form that's easy on your stomach, unlike oxide or citrate, so it's often recommended to promote calm, relaxation, and improved sleep. In this scene, imagine a scientist quietly sprinkling in 200 milligrams of elemental magnesium before lights out. The theory is it might nudge GABA and melatonin signaling in the brain to wrap it up for the night, although experts admit they aren't 100% sure how it works. For example, one sleep expert points out magnesium impacts the way certain chemicals act in the brain, from GABA to melatonin. At worst, a 200 milligrams dose is below the 350 milligrams per day usually recommended as an upper limit, so it's unlikely to cause serious side effects, aside from possibly making you actually chill out and want to sleep. Next, we drop in taurine, 2000 milligrams of it, which is a hefty dose. Taurine is an amino acid, incidentally first isolated from ox bile, despite Red Bull myths, that actually activates GABA receptors in the brain. In a nutshell, taurine is one of nature's brain sedatives. Cornell researchers found taurine is a strong activator of GABA, the main inhibitory neurotransmitter, in the thalamus, a part of the brain that acts like a railway junction for sleep-wake signals. In other words, taurine may literally calm the control center for whether you're sleepy or awake. Anecdotally, people say taurine can lower cortisol, the stress hormone, and even help your brain produce melatonin, which means it could ease anxiety and signal bedtime more quickly. Picture our lab assistant pouring taurine powder into the mix. The idea is it might help your brain shut off the late-night party, even though it's ironically a Red Bull ingredient, and make falling asleep feel as simple as sipping chamomile tea. Science-wise, the jury is still out, but it's known for its relaxing vibe in heavy research doses. On to vitamin B3, niacinamide specifically. At 500 milligrams, we're giving the brain a hefty dose of nicotinamide. Why B3? In very large doses, niacinamide has benzodiazepine-like effects. It binds to the same calm-down receptors that drugs like Valium do. In practical terms, 500 milligrams niacinamide before bed might help some people relax and fall asleep faster. Nutritional psychiatrists have even reported that 50 to 1,000 milligrams of niacinamide at bedtime helped many people sleep better, presumably by nudging those sleep-promoting GABA receptors. It also keeps more tryptophan around to make melatonin, since niacin, nicotinic acid, can compete for tryptophan's attention. So in our thought experiment, the 500 milligrams niacinamide is like giving your brain a minor tranquilizer that doesn't make you flush bright red. Still, it's high for a vitamin. Don't try this cocktail without a scientist overseeing. Next is Sensoril Ashwagandha, 125 milligrams, a branded ashwagandha extract, Withania somnifera, standardized to root and leaf. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen, mostly sold for stress relief. In our stack, we assume it helps sleep by reducing nighttime stress. Indeed, reviews of clinical trials found ashwagandha reduced sleeplessness and fatigue in adults under stress. In one 6-week trial, folks with insomnia who took an ashwagandha extract, 21 milligrams withanolide/day, reported a 72% improvement in sleep quality versus only 29% on placebo. They fell asleep faster, slept longer, and woke up less often. Picture dropping Sensoril into the petri dish. The theory is it might tone down cortisol and anxious thoughts, letting melatonin and GABA do the rest. At only 125 milligrams, about half the dose in many studies, it might have a mild effect, but research suggests ashwagandha does something. At minimum, people feel more relaxed and less stressed by bedtime. Finally, our stack finishes with the classic 1 milligram of melatonin. Melatonin is the sleep hormone your brain makes when it's dark, and as a supplement it signals your body that, yes, it's bedtime. 1 milligram is actually on the low side. Doses up to 3 to 5 milligrams are common, but European regulators note that even 1 milligram of melatonin near bedtime can measurably promote sleep. Why so low? Because higher doses can sometimes cause grogginess. 1 milligram is often enough to tweak your clock without a morning zombie face. Meta-analyses find melatonin users fall asleep a little faster and sleep a little longer than placebo, on average about 7 to 8 minutes difference. It's not magic, but as our final scene, the melatonin acts like the switch that dims the lights in the lab. It interacts with MT1/MT2 receptors to inhibit wake signals. In short, when everything else is in your system, this tiny dose may help align your internal clock and shave off some insomnia latency by telling your brain that yes, sleep time has arrived. There you have it, our entirely hypothetical clean sleep stack for adults. Each scene was a compound being theatrically poured into an imaginary beaker to help you catch Z's. Remember, this is a thought exercise, not a real sleep prescription. In reality, you'd want to talk to a doctor before mixing megadoses of supplements, or any supplements at all. But if you were curious, magnesium relaxes muscles, taurine calms the brain's sleep circuitry, niacinamide sweet talks your neurotransmitters into chill mode, ashwagandha knocks down stress, and melatonin simply dims your internal lights. Mix them all together, and our lab assistant might just settle in for a nice long, clean night's sleep. Sweet dreams.